welcome back to another YouTube video. I hope you guys are doing fine. I hope you guys are doing good. I hope you guys are staying blessed. As you guys have seen from the title and the thumbnail, we are making this top that I have on. Let's just take a moment because she is the moment. She is so cute. I wanted to make a top, just something quick so you guys can just I can just keep up with the one video a week, because that's honestly what my goal is. So this is a super simple crop top, long sleeve, bell sleeve crochet top. You can alternate this for a different length. If you want to go for a full top length, you can definitely do so, and you can also alternate the sleeve depending on how wide. If you want to make yours wider, I will show you guys how to do that. And if you just want to go for a basic sleeve as well, you can definitely do so. The pattern is super simple. It's worked with a multiple of it's worked with an odd number, so any number that cannot be divided by 2, and also it's a repetition of 2 rows. So the moment you just understand row 1 and row 2, it's super simple. I use the same pattern for the back and the front panel, and also for the sleeves, so you just know it's going to be a repetition of the same thing, which is easily just worked up. You can easily work that up. For materials, I ended up using a medium weight yarn as always, and this was actually an old yarn from an old project that I made, the sweater. So if you want to check it out, I'll link that somewhere around so you can make yourself that instead, if you want to make that, or if you want to make this bad boy right here. You can do whatever you want to do. Feel free, because just feel free. So I used a 3mm for the entire project, so there is no switching back between one or two different hooks. We decided to stay with just one size for this project. That also means it's gonna be super simple, right? You're going to need a measurement tape, you're going to need the scissors, and you're also going to need few measurements that you guys would see along the way. This is just a basic top. This is what it looks like from the back. And again, like I said, you can always alternate this length if you want to go for something longer, or if you want to go for something shorter. Totally up to you. So let's get right into the video. I also wanted to mention that if you did decide to make yourself one, I would love to see what it looks like, on you guys, what colors you guys go for, the size. I would love to see it. So please tag me on Instagram or on Facebook or on TikTok. I'm not the most active on TikTok, so I would say Instagram, but wherever you can tag me, please do, so I can see what you guys make and I can actually repost as well. And also the written pattern will be up on my Etsy and my website. If you are a pattern babe, you prefer to see the patterns instead of the videos, I will link that down below so you guys can also shop and support me in the little way you can. That's it for today. I will see you guys in my next video, which is going to be next week. So I'll see you guys next week. Bye bye. So we are going to start with the 3mm, and again for the yarn choice I am using a 100 g medium weight. At the end of the video I'll let you guys know exactly how much I used. So we are just going to take out the yarn and make a slip knot. So you are going to make a slip knot, and I ended up chaining a total of 85. The pattern is worked in odd numbers, so any number that cannot be divided by 2, so 85 cannot be divided by 2, and that is the half of my bust measurement. But of course this depends on the fit that you're going for. If you want it to be oversized, then of course you're just going to add few inches to it and divide that by 2, so your foundation chain is going to be as long as that divided number. So right here I have my 85 chains. We are going to go ahead and start the first row. So to start the first row, we are going to be going into the 5th chain width of double crochet, which means you're going to skip 1, 2, 3, 4, and into the 5th you're going to yarn over, insert a crochet hook into that stitch, grab and pull through, and at this point you should have 3 loops. You're going to yarn over, pull through the first 2, and lastly yarn over and pull through the rest of the 2. From here on, you're going to yarn over, and into this next chain you are going to insert another double crochet stitch, yarn over into the next with a double crochet stitch, yarn over and repeat 1 double crochet until you get to the very end of the row. So this is what your panel should looks like after the first row. For the second row, you are going to chain 2. This is going to be after double crochet row, but with a little twist. So you're going to chain 2, which already identify as a after double crochet stitch on its own. So we are not going to go back into that very first space with the after double crochet stitch. We will be skipping that. So you're going to skip that and then the stitch right after. So you're basically skipping the first 2 and into the third. So you're going to yarn over, insert your crochet hook into that third stitch. You're going to pull through, and when you have 3 loops, you're going to yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. But because we already skipped that second stitch, you're going to yarn over and then going to reverse and go back into that second stitch that we skipped with the same half double crochet stitch. So you're going to insert your half double crochet, pull through, yarn over and pull through again for the second time. So that is going to be like a twist after double crochet stitch pattern going on there, and the pattern is super easy, so you just have to repeat this for the entire row. So for the next row, you're going to skip the next stitch and you're going into the stitch right after with the after double crochet stitch, and of course you want to yarn over and reverse and go back into that stitch that you just skipped with the after double crochet stitch. And this is what you're going to repeat for the entire row, by going into a stitch before with the after double crochet, but because we want to keep the same amount of stitches, you want to reverse and go back into that stitch with another after double crochet. And again, like I said, this is going to give you like a twist after double crochet look, and that is what the pattern is made of. So coming to the end of the row, this is what your pattern should look like. We are going to end off the row by repeating the same pattern until the very end. The reason why I had to mention that the pattern is worked with an odd number is because you want to keep your last stitch for a last double crochet. So right there you guys can see I just did my last twisted set of double crochet, and into that last stitch I am now going to go ahead and insert double crochet, and that last stitch is basically the chain 4 we skipped at the very beginning of the row. So you're going to go into that stitch with the half double crochet to end off your row, and you should have something looking like this. For row 3, you're going to go ahead and chain 3 and turn, and the chain 3 is a double crochet stitch on its own, which means we already have a stitch at the very beginning. So you're going to skip that and go into the second chain from your crochet hook with a double crochet stitch, and from there on you are going to go ahead and repeat 1 double crochet until you get to the very end of the row. And that is basically what row 3 is made up of, just a double crochet, simple double crochet row. So coming to the end of row 3, you are going to just go ahead and repeat 1 double crochet until you get to the very end of the row. I want to make sure that I do not skip any stitch, because if I do, my pattern is eventually going to get smaller. So make sure you're not skipping any stitch. So if you have to use a stitch marker to mark your first and your last stitch, then I'll suggest you do so. For row 4, we are going to go ahead and chain 2, and after chaining 2 you are going to turn, and again a chain 2 in this pattern is a half double crochet stitch on its own, and a chain 3 is a double crochet stitch on its own. So after chaining the 2, you're going to skip your second stitch, and into your third you are going to insert a half double crochet stitch, just the same way we worked row 2. Row 4 and row 2 are the same, row 1 and row 3 are the same. So you're going to yarn over and go back into the stitch that you just skipped with a half double crochet stitch, and just repeat the exact pattern that you did for row 2 for the entire row. So you are now going to repeat row 2 and row 3 until you have your length. Depending on the length, I am going to go for not a crop but like a mid-length. So I'm just gonna repeat this, and I'll see you guys when I have my first panel complete. Guys, the stitch is so pretty. Hey guys, so this is what your panel should look like. I did a total of 13 inches for my own desired length. You are going to repeat the same exact step for your opposite panel, and I'll see you guys when I have mine complete. So I just finished my second panel, so now I have two of these. We are going to go ahead and attach the two together, but before we do that, I want to show you how to determine or how to decide how wide you want the neckline to be. So you're going to grab your first panel and just put this across your body, then you can decide how wide you want the neckline to be. For me, I don't want this to be off the shoulders, so I'm not going to make it too wide, but at the same time I don't want to make it too tight, because if you do, you won't have enough room to put your head through. So you want to make sure it's wide. Honestly, this just depends on whatever look you're going for, but I think mine is going to be about this width. But just to make sure it's the center, I like to just go back and fold the panel into two. Make sure those two ends actually meet up with each other before I attach, or before I just use a stitch marker and mark this. So right there I have my two ends. I'm just going to grab my two stitch marker and I'm going to mark the two sides. So now I have my two stitch markers. We can go to the table and attach it. You can also just take your armpit hole measurement to decide how wide you want the armpit to be, because that's the next step, and we're going to do that. So now that I have both of my panel complete, I am going to now align both, but you have to make sure that this is going to be the outside, which means the good side, and this is going to be the wrong side. So I like to just make sure that the two good sides are facing each other, so that way when you start single crocheting them together, you're going to have the good side facing each other and the bad side on the outside. But also you want to decide I usually like to use the neckline, the first row. I usually like to use the first row, because then the stitches there are a little bit tighter to be around the neck, while the last row should be around the lower part. That's just my preference, but you can do whatever you want to do. So now you are going to, again, like I did with the stitch marker, we are going to go ahead and single crochet from this marked area all the way to the very end, and from this marked area all the way to the very end. To do that, all I'm going to do is just grab my yarn and I'm going to attach this to the side. I like to just start from the side, so if I need to adjust anything, I can easily do that. But if I start here, then I have to take everything off. Or if I start from the edge coming up, if I need to add, if I want to reduce because the neck is too tight, then I can always do that. So I'm just going to attach my yarn with a knot. I'm still using the 3mm for this. And from here on, I'm just going to go into this very first space on this, and the very first space on this next panel, and I'm going to grab the yarn and pull through. I like to just chain one from here, and I'm just going to single crochet by going into the first stitch on this panel, the first stitch on the opposite panel, grab the yarn, and I'm going to single crochet these two. Or you can use whatever method that you are used to when it comes to attaching your panels. You can use a needle, you can use a slip stitch for this method. So I'm just going to repeat this until I get to the stitch marker. So right here I'm coming to the stitch marker. I'm just going to take this off, and I usually like to go back into that same stitch, the marked stitch again, just to make sure that I actually have the exact measurement. And I like to go back into that same space with a slip stitch after a single crochet, just to make sure it's secure. And from there I'm going to chain one and cut this off, and right there I have it secure. And if you turn this over, you should have something looking like this. And of course you're going to do the same thing on the opposite side, but before that I am going to go ahead and show you guys how to do the sides for the armpit hole measurement. So in my case, it's going to be 14 inches, which means that is going to be divided by 2 because we have 2 sides, right? So that will give a total of 7. So I'm just going to mark from the upper part downwards. 7 inches is going to be around this area, which means I'm going to mark 7 inches around this area, grab my stitch marker, and I'm going to secure that with a stitch marker. Just did it right there all the way to the very end, and when I have that complete, I'm going to of course repeat the same exact step on the opposite side of the panel, and I'll see you guys when it's complete. So we are going to get started with the sleeve. I already have my 2 sides attached, so you're going to turn your now top into the good side, making sure that the seam are inside. So now we are going to start with the sleeve. So you're just going to grab your yarn and you are going to attach this to the armpit area, which is the seam area, with a secure knot. For me, I like to start with the foundation row just so we can have a base to work with. And to do that, all I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the space, grab the yarn and pull through, and I like to just chain one just so I can have a foundation. And from here, I'm going to go ahead and single crochet around the sleeve. And to do that, you're just going to go ahead with one single crochet into every available space. You cannot really tell where exactly you need to insert a single crochet stitch. All I can say is you want to make sure there is no gap between the stitches, and also you're not increasing by inserting more than one stitch. So you want to just carefully insert one single crochet into every space around the sleeve, around the armpit hole. Right here I'm coming to the very beginning where I started with my single crochet. I like to just make sure that I go into that very first, after getting into the last space, I like to go into the very first single crochet with a slip stitch, just so I can end off the row. And this is what your foundation row should look like, and this just makes it's super easy for us to work the pattern. Now from here on we are going to start working the pattern. So you're going to go ahead and chain 3. After chaining 3, you're going to go into this next single crochet. This chain 3 we just did is a double crochet stitch. So into this next single crochet you are going to insert a double crochet, into the next with a double crochet, and you are going to go ahead and repeat one double crochet into every single crochet from the previous row until you get to the very beginning. So right here I have my sleeve looking like this. So you want to make sure you insert one double crochet until you get to your very last stitch. From here on we are going to just go ahead and slip stitch into the 3rd chain. So right here I have my chain 3. I'm going to go into the very top chain and I'm going to slip stitch to end off this row. Again, this is row 1 because the single crochet row is just a foundation row. We are going to start row 2, and to do that you are going to go ahead and chain 2, and you're going to turn, and from here on you are going to, again, the same pattern that we've been working, we are going to skip this very first. So to start row 2 you're going to skip this first double crochet, and into the second you are going to insert a half double crochet stitch, and next you're going to yarn over and go back into that stitch that you just skipped with your half double crochet stitch, just the same way we worked the front and the back panel. Again, we're going to skip this next stitch and we're going to go into the one after with the half double crochet, and afterwards you're going to yarn over and go back into the stitch you just skipped with the half double crochet, and you're going to just repeat the same pattern row 2 until you get to the end of the row. So I am coming to the very end of the second row. I just wanted to say, in case I honestly have the last 2 stitches where I can do the last crease cross, so I wanted to say if you have one more stitch, all you're going to do is just decrease the stitch. It honestly wouldn't hurt anyone. That's what I always say, because for me, let me show you guys exactly what I mean. So right before my chain 2 space, which is this, I have 2 more, right? So if you have 3, all you're going to do is you're going to yarn over and go into this second to last and also into the last. But because I don't have any, I'm just going to go into this one. But if you have an extra stitch, all you're going to do is decrease those 2 last stitches together. So you're going to insert your half double crochet right there, and of course you're going to come back and insert a half double crochet into this last stitch. End of the row, we are going to go ahead and slip stitch into this chain 2 space. So right into the very top, I am going to slip stitch right there to end of the row, and that's super simple. From here on, we're going to chain 3, turn, and we're honestly going to repeat row 1, which is a double crochet into every stitch from the previous row. And when you get to the very beginning, you're going to slip stitch into that very top chain and turn and repeat row 2. That is what you're going to do for a total of 14 inches. You're going to do that for a total of 14 inches. But when I say 14 inches, I'm not saying without the shoulders. So that is with the shoulders included. So basically from this side all the way up until 14 inches, that is what I'm going to do. So it's going to be from the shoulders all the way up to 14 inches, and then I'll see you guys and show you guys what the next layer of sleeve is going to be looking like and what we're going to do different. But that is what I'm going to repeat, and then I'll see you guys. So right here I'm coming to the point where I have my 14 inches, and 14 inches is basically from your shoulders up right before your forearm, so where your arm literally falls before you get to your elbow. That is where it's supposed to fit. So right there you can see that I have 14 inches now. So now from this part we are going to start the layer, which is going to give you the bell look. There are 2 layers to the pattern, but again, like I mentioned, you don't have to do this if you don't want to. All you have to do is just repeat this row until you have your desired length. But if you want the same look, all you're going to do is you're going to chain 3. I ended off the row with the half double crochet row because I will be using the double crochet row to do the increase. So you're going to chain 3 and you are going to go back into that same stitch with an extra double crochet. Again, at the beginning of the video I did mention that the chain 3 is already a stitch on its own. So from there on you are going to go into the next stitch with 2 double crochets right into that same space, and into the next you are going to insert 2 double crochets again. I also wanted to mention that depending on how wide you want the sleeve to be, you can definitely alternate between 2 double crochets in a stitch or 1 double crochet back and forth. That just depends on how wide. If you want this wide, the sleeve to be way more wider than mine looks, then you can do 3 double crochets. Feel free to go big if you want to go big, and feel free to make it small if you want to make it small. So to end off the row, you are going to do that the same way you've been doing, which is basically slip stitching into the 3rd chain in the set of 3 double crochets, but you still want to make sure you are increasing until you get to that point. You don't want to just stop increasing at the center of everything, because then your pattern is going to look funny. So right into the very top chain you are going to go ahead and slip stitch, and right from here you don't have to do any other increase except for the second layer. So from here on you're going to chain 2, and for your next row you are just going to repeat the half double crochet crisscross pattern, which is basically skipping the very first stitch and going into the second stitch and going into the third with your afterblock crochet stitch. And you of course want to make sure you come back to that stitch with the afterblock crochet. I did make a mistake by doing a double crochet right there, but that's what you're going to repeat. And I did this for I think about 6 sets. So basically row 1 and row 2, row 3, row 4, row 5, row 6. I did that for a total of 6 rows, and I'll see you guys after it's complete. So guys, still on the sleeve, I did my first increase, obviously, that you guys did see, and I did a total of 6 rows. So right, this is the increase row. So right after I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rows actually. So now we are going to do the second layer of increase, but just so you guys know, this is optional. If you want to leave the flare like this, you can absolutely do that. All you have to do is just repeat rows until you have your desired length, but because I just want another flare, another volume, I'm going to just go ahead and increase with the same pattern, which is chain 3 right there, and I'm going to go back into that same space with an extra double crochet, and from there on I'm just going to go into every stitch with 2 double crochets, and that is going to be the second increase pattern. And just the same way we did for the first layer, after this first row you're just going to go back into your afterblock crochet row, and then you're going to just repeat this until you have your desired sleeve length. I already did one side, so I'm going to show you guys exactly what it looks like, just in case you're actually curious before you make up your mind. So this is one side I already completed because I wanted to see what I was going for first before I give you guys instructions. So this is what the one side looks like. So I'm just going to repeat the same exact step for this other pattern, for this other sleeve, sorry. So I'm going to go ahead and increase with a 2 double crochet into every stitch, and then right after I know that I'm just complete with the increasing, and I'm just going to go ahead and do a regular, which is just the afterblock crochet and the double crochet. I'm just alternating between those two. So I'm just going to repeat that, and I'll see you guys when the final look is complete.